They say you should never judge a species by their homeworld. The Valorian Empire learned that lesson the hard way. See, when they first detected Earth, they saw a pale blue marble orbiting an unremarkable yellow star in a backwater arm of the galaxy. They saw a species that had barely crawled out of their own atmosphere, playing with chemical rockets like children with firecrackers. They saw weakness. They saw an easy conquest. What they didn't see was humanity's greatest strength, our ability to turn desperation into innovation, and our refusal to go quietly into the night. This is the story of how Earth's most unlikely warriors changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever, and it begins not with a bang, but with a transmission that would seal the fate of empires. Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station Genesis, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath her. 20 years ago, this moment would have been impossible. Humanity had only just established permanent colonies on Mars, when the signal came, the one that changed everything. First contact. The message had been clear, translated through mathematical principles that transcended language. Greetings from the Galactic Council. You are not alone. For 3 glorious months, humanity had celebrated. We weren't unique. We weren't isolated. The cosmos was alive with civilizations, and we were being welcomed into a community that spanned thousands of worlds. Chen had been a captain then, commanding a retrofitted fusion drive vessel doing survey work in the asteroid belt. She remembered the parties, the speeches, the renewed sense of purpose that swept across Earth. The Space Force, previously an underfunded curiosity, suddenly became humanity's most important institution. Every nation poured resources into building ships, establishing protocols, preparing for the day when alien vessels would arrive at our doorstep. That day had come 6 months ago, but it wasn't the Galactic Council that showed up. It was the Valorian Empire, and they hadn't come to welcome us, Admiral. We're receiving another transmission. Lieutenant Park's voice cut through her thoughts. Chen turned from the viewport and made her way to the command center, her magnetic boots clicking softly against the deck plating. The command center of the Genesis was a far cry from the sci-fi fantasies of old Earth movies. It was cramped, functional, and smelled faintly of recycled air and coffee. Dozens of officers sat at their stations, monitoring everything from orbital traffic to deep space sensors that could detect ships dropping out of faster. Then, light travel, put it through, Chen ordered. Settling into her command chair, the main screen flickered to life, and once again, she found herself staring at the angular, reptilian features of Warmaster Krell. The Valorian looked like evolution had designed him specifically for war-scaled skin that could probably deflect small arms fire, predatory eyes that tracked movement with disturbing intensity, and a mouth full of serrated teeth that served no purpose in a civilization that had mastered synthetic food millennia ago. Those teeth were purely for intimidation, and Chen hated to admit they worked. Humans. Krell's voice came through the translator, carrying undertones the device couldn't quite capture. Your time for compliance has expired. The Valorian Empire has claimed this system under the rights of discovery. You will surrender your military assets, submit to our authority, and provide 30% of your population for labor conscription. Resistance will be met with orbital bombardment. You have 12 of your hours to respond. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the command center in tense silence. Chen studied the faces around her. Fear, anger, defiance, she saw it all. Earth had been dealing with Krell's ultimatums for 6 months now, each one more aggressive than the last. The Valorians had arrived with a fleet of 30 warships, each one dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. They demonstrated their weapons by vaporizing an asteroid the size of Manhattan. Just to make their point clear, the Galactic Council, when humanity finally managed to contact them, had been sympathetic but unhelpful. Apparently, the Valorians were exploiting a loophole in galactic law. Since humanity hadn't been formally inducted into the Council before the Valorians arrived, we weren't protected by the non-aggression treaties that kept most civilizations safe. Options? Chen asked, though she already knew what her staff would say. Commander Rodriguez, her tactical officer, pulled up a holographic display showing the Valorian fleet positioned just beyond the orbit of Mars. We have 47 warships, Admiral, if you can call them that. Most are converted civilian vessels with weapons grafted on. The rest are the new Aurora-class frigates, but we've only got 12 of those, and they're untested in real combat. Our simulations show we'd last maybe 20 minutes against the Valorian fleet." He paused. Jaw tight. "It would be a slaughter. What about the project?" Chen asked quietly. "Prometheus?" Every head in the command center turned toward her. Project Prometheus was the most classified program in human history, buried so deep that even most world leaders only knew it as a code name. Chen had clearance because the project fell under Space Force jurisdiction, but she'd only been briefed on it once, and even then, she'd been told it was theoretical, a pipe dream, a desperate Hail Mary that might take decades to complete if it was even possible. Dr. Sarah Kim, the civilian liaison officer attached to Chen's staff, looked up from her console. She was young, barely 30, but her eyes held the exhaustion of someone who'd been working 100-hour weeks for months. "Prometheus achieved proof of concept 3 weeks ago, Admiral, but it's not ready, not even close. The prototype suffered catastrophic containment failure during the 3rd test. The engineers estimate we'd need at least another year, probably 2, to work out the bugs and build something operational." Chen closed her eyes briefly. "A year, 2 years. They had 12 hours. Get me a direct line to General Morrison at Strategic Command," she said, "and someone find out where Director Reeves is. If we're going to do this, I need to talk to the mad scientist who designed that monster." 3 hours later, Chen found herself in a secure conference room aboard the Genesis, staring at a holographic projection of the most terrifying weapon humanity had ever conceived. Director James Reeves stood beside the projection, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. Probably because he hadn't. The man was a legend in certain circles, a physicist who'd published groundbreaking papers on exotic matter manipulation before being recruited by Space Force's Black Programs Division. Now he looked like a ghost, pale and trembling, as he walked Chen through the specifications of humanity's last hope. "We're calling it the Titan. Class Dreadnought," Reeves began, his voice hoarse. "Specifically, this is the UES Prometheus, though she's nowhere near ready for deployment. The ship is built around a singularity drive, a contained micro-black hole that provides effectively unlimited power. That's the easy part. We've had stable singularity containment for 6 months now." He manipulated the hologram, zooming in on the ship's superstructure. It looked nothing like a traditional spaceship. The Prometheus was a nightmare of angular geometry, all sharp edges and impossible angles, with a central sphere that seemed to drink in light. "The hard part," Reeves continued, "is the weapon system. We're calling it a causality disruptor because that's the simplest way to describe what it does. It doesn't fire projectiles or energy beams. It fires time." He must have seen the confusion on Chen's face because he quickly elaborated. "The weapon creates a bubble of accelerated temporal flow around a target. Inside that bubble, time passes thousands of times faster than it does in normal space. A ship caught in the effect would age years in seconds. Metal fatigues, reactor fuel depletes, life support fails, crews die of old age. It's not an explosion. It's entropy weaponized." Chen felt her mouth go dry. That's horrifying." Reeves laughed bitterly. Yeah, it is. It violates about 40 different provisions of the Galactic Warfare Convention, assuming we ever get admitted to the Council. But here's the thing, it's also incredibly unstable. During our last test, the causality bubble expanded beyond our ability to control it. It consumed the test platform and 3 observation drones before we managed to collapse it. If we fired this weapon in an actual combat situation and lost containment, we could accidentally age Earth's orbit by a few million years. Bad for the planet's long-term climate stability. How bad is bad? Chen asked. Like, we need to evacuate bad, or kiss your grandchildren goodbye bad. Reeves met her eyes. More like Earth becomes Venus and all life in the solar system dies bad. The math says there's about a 15% chance of catastrophic containment failure. With the current design, we can probably get that down to 5%, maybe 3% if we have time to run more tests. But Admiral, we don't have time. General Morrison's voice crackled over the comm system. which is why we're not going to use the causality disruptor." Chen and Reeves both turned toward the speaker. "Sir," Chen asked carefully. Morrison's image appeared on a secondary screen, the general's weathered face grim but determined. "Prometheus has conventional weapons too, doesn't it? The railguns, the missile batteries?" Reeves nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. The ship was designed with redundant weapons systems in case the primary system failed. She's got 12 electromagnetic accelerator cannons, each capable of firing a projectile at 0 to % light speed. 300 vertical launch tubes for fusion missiles. Point defense laser grids. And armor god, the armor. We used exotic matter plating that's technically denser than it should be. According to conventional physics, the ship can take a hell of a beating. But General, all of that is still untested. And even with those weapons, Prometheus is one ship. The Valorians have 30, one ship that they won't see coming," Morrison countered. "Director, can you launch her?" The physicist looked like he wanted to object, to explain all the thousands of reasons why this was a terrible idea. Instead, he just looked tired. "Technically, yes. The ship is space-worthy. The singularity drive works. Navigation, life support, basic systems all functional. It's just the causality disruptor that's unreliable. If we're only using conventional weapons, then yes, we can launch. But General, even crewed by our best people, I don't see how one dreadnought can fight 30 Valorian warships and win." Chen found herself speaking before she fully thought through the implications. It doesn't have to win. It just has to make them think twice about Earth being an easy target. She looked at Morrison. "Sir, what if we use Prometheus as a demonstration? Show the Valorians that we have weapons that can hurt them. Make them reconsider the cost of invading. If we can make this look like we've got a whole fleet of these ships hidden somewhere, maybe we can buy time for diplomacy." Morrison was quiet for a long moment. "It's a bluff," he finally said. "A dangerous one. If they call it, if they realize we only have one prototype, they'll wipe us out of spite." He took a deep breath. "But it's the best option we've got. Chen, I'm putting you in command of Prometheus. Reeves, you're going with her as technical advisor. You've got 6 hours to crew that ship and figure out how to make the Valorians blink first." The UES Prometheus hung in space like a predator, her black hull drinking in the light of distant stars. She'd been constructed in secret at Facility 7, a shipyard hidden in the asteroid belt, away from prying eyes both human and alien. As Chen's shuttle approached, she got her first real look at the ship she'd be commanding, and her breath caught in her throat. The Prometheus was massive, easily 3 times the size of the largest ship in Earth's fleet. But it wasn't her size that was intimidating. It was her presence. The ship seemed wrong somehow, like looking at an optical illusion that your brain couldn't quite process. "The exotic matter plating," Reeves explained from the seat beside her. "It bends light in weird ways, makes it hard to focus on. In deep space, against the black, she'll be practically invisible to conventional sensors. The Valorians use a lot of optical tracking for their weapons systems. Prometheus will ghost right through their targeting solutions." He pulled up a data pad, fingers flying across the screen. "I'm sending you the crew manifest. We pulled the best from every branch: fighter pilots, submariners, astronauts, even some special forces operators. 300 souls, all volunteers. They know this is likely a one-way trip." Chen studied the manifest as the shuttle slid into Prometheus's main hangar bay. She recognized some of the names: veterans of Mars, officers she'd served with, young hotshots from the academy who'd graduated top of their class, 300 people who'd agreed to crew an untested warship armed with a weapon that might accidentally destroy their homeworld. They were either the bravest humans alive or the craziest. Probably both. "How long do we have to run shakedown exercises?" she asked. Reeves checked his chronometer. "Krell's ultimatum expires in 8 hours. We need to launch in 6 to have any chance of intercepting the Valorian fleet before they enter weapons range of Earth. So, effectively, we have no time for exercises. We're going to learn on the job." The next 4 hours were a controlled chaos of activity. Chen took command of the bridge, a cavernous space dominated by holographic displays and stations for dozens of officers. The technology was bleeding edge, combining human innovation with principles reverse. engineered from the limited alien tech samples humanity had acquired. The navigation officer, Commander Tanaka, reported that the singularity drive was stable and could be engaged on command. The tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Jackson, ran diagnostics on the weapon systems and declared them probably functional, which was the best they could hope for. Dr. Reeves had set up shop in what would normally be the captain's ready room, turning it into a makeshift laboratory and command center for the causality disruptor. Chen had made her intentions clear. They would only use the reality, bending weapon as an absolute last resort if Earth itself was under imminent threat of destruction. Even then, she wasn't sure she could give that order. The risk was too great, but having the option, even a dangerous one, was better than having nothing. "Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth," the communications officer announced. Chen nodded. "Put it through to my station." General Morrison's face appeared on her personal screen. "Chen, the Valorians have begun moving. Their fleet is advancing on Earth, estimated arrival in 10 hours. They're not waiting for their own deadline." Chen felt her stomach drop. "They're going to attack early. Catch us off guard." Morrison nodded grimly. "That's the assessment, which means you need to engage them as soon as possible. Command has authorized you to use any means necessary to protect Earth. That includes the causality disruptor, if you judge it essential." "Sir, the risks," Chen began. But Morrison cut her off. "I know the risks, Admiral. But if the Valorians reach Earth, we're looking at billions dead. Orbital bombardment will trigger nuclear winter. Our civilization will collapse. You have the only weapon that might stop them. Use your judgment, but know that whatever you decide, you have Earth's full support." The transmission ended, leaving Chen staring at the blank screen. Any means necessary. That was as close to carte blanche as she'd ever received. It was also the loneliest feeling in the world. She stood, straightening her uniform, and walked out onto the bridge. 300 pairs of eyes turned toward her on the bridge, in engineering, at weapons stations throughout the ship. Her crew, her responsibility. "All hands, this is Admiral Chen," she said, her voice carrying through the ship's internal comm system. "You all know why we're here. You know what we're up against. The Valorians think Earth is weak. They think we'll surrender or die quickly. They've made a fundamental mistake. They don't know humanity. They don't know that we've survived ice ages and plagues, wars and famines. They don't know that we've clawed our way up from the mud to the stars through sheer stubbornness and ingenuity." Chen paused, letting her words sink in. "This ship, the Prometheus, represents the best of what we can be. She's dangerous, untested, maybe even a little bit insane. Just like us. In a few minutes, we're going to light up that singularity drive and show the Valorians something they've never seen before. We're going to show them that Earth bows to no one. And if they want to take our world, they're going to pay a price that makes them regret ever finding us." She took a breath. "Helm, set course for the Valorian fleet. Engineering, bring the singularity drive online. Tactical, I want all weapons armed and ready. We launch in 10 minutes. The bridge erupted in controlled activity. Chen returned to her command chair, strapping in as the ship began to hum with barely contained power. Through the main viewport, she could see the stars, steady and eternal. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was advancing on her home, and standing in their way was one experimental warship crewed by humans, who refused to go down without a fight. The countdown reached 0. "Drive engaged," the helmsman reported. "Initiating jump in 3, 2, 1. The universe twisted, and the Prometheus vanished from the asteroid belt in a flash of Hawking radiation and gravitational distortion. The Valorian warship Eternal Conquest cruised at the head of the invasion fleet. Her captain, Commander Threx, monitoring the approach to Earth with satisfaction. The humans had gone silent, which meant they'd accepted reality. Resistance would have been pointless anyway. Threx had studied the primitive vessels the humans called warships. Fusion drives, chemical projectiles, fission warheads technology the Valorian Empire had abandoned 3,000 years ago. It would be less a battle and more an extermination. Perhaps if the humans behaved, Warmaster Krell would be merciful. Threx doubted it. Krell didn't become Warmaster by being soft. "Commander, sensor anomaly," one of his officers reported. "Spatial distortion detected. Bearing 2, 1, 5 Mark III. Unknown origin. Threx frowned. Spatial distortions could mean several things, none of them good in hostile space. Classification? He demanded. The sensor officer's scales rippled in confusion. Unknown, sir. The signature doesn't match any faster than light method in our database. It's not a warp bubble, not a hyperspace gate. I don't know what it is, sir. The gravity readings are off the scale. Before Threx could respond, reality tore open 3,000 kilometers off the Eternal Conquest's starboard bow. The tear wasn't a gentle unfurling like normal FTL transitions. It was violent, angry, as if something was forcing its way into normal space through sheer brute strength. Warning alarms shrieked across the bridge as the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. Through the viewport, Threx saw something emerging from the wound-in space-time. And for the first time in his 30-year military career, he felt the cold touch of fear. The ship that emerged was wrong. That was the only word Threx's mind could supply. It was larger than any human vessel they'd detected, but that wasn't what made it wrong. The hull seemed to drink in light, creating an absence in space. A hole where sensors said something should be, but eyes couldn't quite confirm. The ship's geometry hurt to look at. All impossible angles and surfaces that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. And the power readings, by the ancestors, his sensor officer whispered. Sir, that thing is generating more power than our entire fleet combined. What is that? Aboard the Prometheus, Admiral Chen watched the Valorian fleet spread out before them on the tactical display. 30 ships, just as intelligence had reported. Big, ugly, and intimidating. But they'd been caught completely flat-footed by Prometheus's arrival. The singularity drive had worked perfectly, tearing them across the solar system in seconds. Tactical assessment? Chen asked calmly, though her heart was racing. Lieutenant Commander Jackson studied his displays. They're scrambling, Admiral. No weapons lock yet. Their formation is breaking apart. I think we scared them. Wait, multiple contacts charging weapons. They're going to fire. Evasive maneuvers, Chen ordered. But keep us between them and Earth. I want them to know we're not backing down. The Prometheus moved with impossible grace for something so massive. The singularity drive allowing maneuvers that would tear a conventional ship apart. Valorian weapons fire began to fill the space around them. Particle beams, plasma torpedoes, kinetic kill vehicles. Most missed entirely. The Prometheus's exotic hull, making her nearly impossible to target accurately. The shots that did connect splashed harmlessly against the armor plating, absorbed by matter that had properties conventional physics said shouldn't exist. Return fire. Chen said, Railguns, targeting Solution Alpha. Let's see what our toys can do. The Prometheus shuddered as 12 electromagnetic accelerator cannons fired in sequence. There was no sound in space, but Chen imagined she could hear them anyway, a thunderous declaration that Earth was not defenseless. The tungsten, carbide slugs, each weighing several tons and traveling at relativistic speeds, crossed the distance to the Valorian fleet in heartbeats. The lead ship, the one Chen's tactical officer had identified as the flagship, tried to evade. It was far too slow. The first slug punched through the Valorian flagship's shields like they were tissue paper, penetrated her hull, and exited the other side in a spray of molten metal and atmosphere. The second slug hit amidships, and this time the internal explosions were visible as secondary systems detonated in chain reaction. By the time the third slug hit, the flagship was breaking apart, her spine shattered, crew compartments venting into space. The ship that had been preparing to bombard Earth into submission was now a tumbling wreck, atmosphere freezing into glittering clouds of ice crystals. It had taken all of 15 seconds. The Valorian fleet stopped cold. Chen could almost hear the frantic communications between ships, the shocked disbelief. One shot, one human ship had destroyed their flagship with one shot. Open a channel, Chen ordered. Broadcast on all frequencies. I want every Valorian in this system to hear this. Commander Threx stared at the wreckage of the Eternal Conquest, his mind refusing to process what he'd just witnessed. 30 years. 30 years in the Valorian military, and he'd never seen a ship destroyed so quickly, so absolutely. Whatever that human vessel was, It wielded power that rivaled Council Dreadnought's ships that the Valorian Empire carefully avoided confronting. This was impossible. The humans were primitives. They'd barely achieved faster than light capability. How could they have built something like this? His communications officer's voice shook as she spoke. "Commander, we're being hailed. The human ship is broadcasting on all frequencies." Threx's claws dug into his command chair. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and suddenly he was looking at a human female in a strange uniform. Her face was calm, almost serene, but her eyes held the coldness of deep space. When she spoke, her words were translated instantly by the Valorian computers, and every word hit like a physical blow. "Valorian fleet. This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth ship Prometheus," the human said. "You came to our system expecting an easy conquest. You expected us to submit or die. You were wrong." Chen leaned forward slightly, and Threx felt the weight of her stare even across the void of space. "What you just witnessed was a demonstration. The destruction of your flagship was achieved using our most basic weapons system, conventional railguns using kinetic projectiles. We have capabilities far beyond this. Weapons that bend the laws of physics. Weapons that make what you just saw look like children playing with firecrackers." Chen paused, letting her words sink in. "But we didn't come here to annihilate you. We came to give you one chance, one opportunity to leave this system alive. Turn your fleet around and go. Return to your empire and tell them that Earth is not prey. Tell them that humanity will not bow. Tell them that if they want our world, they'll have to go through ships like Prometheus. And we have more where this came from." Threx's blood ran cold at that last statement. More of these ships. It was a bluff. It had to be a bluff. But looking at the wreckage of the eternal conquest, watching this human vessel simply hang in space radiating impossible power, Threx wasn't sure he was willing to bet his fleet on it being a lie. "And if we don't retreat?" Threx found himself asking, his voice transmitted before he could stop himself. The human admiral smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Then we introduce you to our causality disruptor. And trust me, Commander, you really don't want that. Your fleet will experience the heat death of the universe in about 30 seconds of subjective time. There won't even be enough left for your empire to bury." Threx looked around his bridge. His crew stared back at him, fear evident in every face. These were hardened warriors who'd fought in a dozen campaigns, conquered 6 systems, and they were terrified. He thought about Warmaster Krell's orders, the glory promised for conquering Earth, the resources this system would provide. Then he thought about the eternal conquest, a ship that had survived 3 wars, reduced to floating debris in 15 seconds. He thought about this human weapon. They'd threatened something that could weaponize entropy itself. "We will require time to consult with Warmaster Krell," Threx said carefully. Admiral Chen nodded. "You have 1 hour. After that, we start removing ships from your fleet, one at a time, until you leave or you're all dead." Prometheus out. The transmission ended, leaving Threx staring at his tactical display. One ship, one human ship, had brought the Valorian invasion to a halt. And somewhere, on that black vessel that bent light and reality around it, humans were waiting to see what his next move would be. Threx reached for the communications panel to contact Warmaster Krell, his claw trembling slightly. For the first time in Valorian military history, they had encountered prey that could bite back. The question was, how badly did the Empire want Earth? And were they willing to risk finding out what other weapons humanity had hidden in the dark? What happens when Warmaster Krell receives Threx's report? Will the Valorian Empire retreat, or will they call Earth's bluff? And if the causality disruptor must be used, can Admiral Chen control it, or will humanity's greatest weapon become their extinction? Let's find out. Warmaster Krell's command chamber aboard the Valorian dreadnought Eternal Dominion was a testament to conquest. Banners from defeated worlds hung from the walls, weapons taken from fallen enemies displayed like trophies. Krell himself sat upon a throne made from the melted hull plating of the first ship he'd ever destroyed in combat. He was reviewing supply reports when Commander Threx's transmission came through, and what he saw made his blood boil with a mixture of rage. And though he'd never admitted a sliver of fear, "Impossible," Krell hissed. watching the footage of the Eternal Conquest's destruction for the third time. Threx, you incompetent fool. You allowed them to surprise you. You let them destroy our flagship without even he stopped mid-sentence, rewinding the footage. Even accounting for Threx's incompetence, the timeline didn't make sense. The human ship had appeared from nowhere, moving in ways that violated known physics. The Conquest shields, rated to withstand direct hits from fusion weapons, had collapsed like they weren't even there. And that ship, that black nightmare of a vessel, it didn't match any human technology in their intelligence files. War Master, Threx's voice was steady despite the obvious fear beneath it. This is not a conventional human vessel. Our xenotechnology analysts believe this ship represents a quantum leap in their capabilities. The power signature alone suggests they've achieved singularity manipulation technology that only the Council races possess. Sir, if they have more ships like this, Krell's roar cut him off. They don't. It's a trick, Threx. One prototype, one desperate gamble. The humans are bluffing, and you're falling for it like a juvenile. But even as Krell said it, doubt not at him. The Valorian Empire had built its strength on careful calculation, on knowing when to press an advantage and when to conserve forces. They'd avoided direct confrontation with Council races precisely because those civilizations had weapons that could challenge even the Empire's might. This human ship, this Prometheus, it wielded Council-level technology. How was that possible? The humans had barely achieved spaceflight a century ago. They should have been centuries, perhaps millennia, away from this kind of capability. War Master, your orders? Threx pressed. Krell's claws drummed against his throne. Pride demanded he order the fleet forward, that he crush these upstart humans and show the galaxy that the Valorian Empire feared nothing. But strategic sensed the quality that had kept him alive through 40 years of warfare, urged caution. If the humans did have more ships like the Prometheus, advancing would be suicide. If they didn't, and he retreated, he'd be mocked as a coward. But he'd be a living coward with his fleet intact. Maintain position, Krell ordered finally. Do not, I repeat, do not fire on the human vessel unless fired upon. I'm bringing the Dominion and the Second Fleet to your position. If the humans want a fight, we'll give them one they can't win. But Threx, if you let them destroy even one more ship before I arrive, I'll space you personally. The transmission ended, leaving Threx staring at his displays. 4 hours. The Dominion and Second Fleet would arrive in 4 hours. That meant another 15 ships, including Krell's personal dreadnought, a vessel twice the size of the Eternal Conquest, and armed with weapons that had leveled cities. Threx just had to keep his ships alive until then. He opened a channel to Admiral Chen, aboard the Prometheus. Chen listened to Threx's carefully worded response. Admiral Chen, we are evaluating your demonstration. War Master Krell is en route to personally oversee negotiations. We request a temporary ceasefire while our leadership confers. Chen glanced at Reeves, who'd joined her on the bridge. The physicist looked exhausted but alert, constantly monitoring the causality disruptor's status on a portable console. They're stalling, Chen said quietly. Bringing in reinforcements. How long can we maintain this bluff? Depends on what they do, Reeves replied. If they run sensor sweeps, they might detect that we're the only ship of this class in the system. Our stealth is good, but it's not perfect. If they get brave and rush us all at once. He trailed off, running calculations on his pad. 29 ships against 1? Even with our advantages, the math isn't good, Admiral. We get maybe 5 or 6 before they overwhelmed our defenses. And that's assuming the causality disruptor stays offline. If we have to use it, all bets are off. Chen nodded slowly. She'd expected this. One ship couldn't hold off an entire fleet indefinitely, no matter how advanced. But they didn't need to win. They just needed to make the Valorians doubt. Make them think twice. Buy Earth enough time to build more ships, to get the Council's attention, to find diplomatic solutions. How long until these reinforcements arrive? She asked her sensor officer. 4 hours, 23 minutes, Admiral, came the reply. 15 additional contacts, led by what appears to be a super capital ship, twice the mass of anything else in their fleet. 4 hours. Chen could work with 4 hours. Open a channel to Earth, she ordered. Priority Alpha. I need to speak with General Morrison and Director Reeves' team at Facility 7. While the connection was established, Chen stood and addressed her bridge crew. Listen up. In 4 hours, we're going to be outnumbered 40-1. Our mission hasn't changed: protect Earth at all costs. But I'm not going to lie to you. This is about to get significantly more difficult. I need everyone at 100%. Rotation schedules are suspended. Get coffee, get stims, do whatever you need to do to stay sharp. We're going to need every advantage we can get. The connection to Earth came through. General Morrison's face appearing alongside several other high-ranking officials and, surprisingly, the Secretary General of the United Nations. Chen gave them a rapid situation update, watching their expressions shift from hope to grim determination. As she explained about the incoming Valorian reinforcements, Admiral Morrison said heavily, "You've already done more than we could have hoped. You've shown the Valorians that Earth can fight back. If you need to withdraw, no, sir." Chen cut him off. "We hold the line here. If we let them get past us, they'll bombard Earth from orbit, and we don't have enough defensive installations to stop them all. Prometheus stays between the Valorians and home, but I need options. Reeves' team, is there any way to accelerate production on a second ship? Even a partial one?" She saw the scientists conferring off-screen, heated discussions in technical jargon she couldn't quite follow. Finally, Dr. Sarah Kim's face appeared on the screen. She looked even more exhausted than Reeves. "If that was possible, Admiral, the earliest we could launch a second Titan class would be 6 months from now. And that's if we cut corners and work around the clock," Kim said. "But we do have something else. Remember how I said the causality disruptor had a catastrophic containment failure during testing?" Chen nodded. "We built a second prototype weapon. Smaller, more stable, designed as a ship killer rather than a strategic weapon. It's mounted on the Aurora-class frigate UES Defiant. The ship was going to be part of the test program, but we could deploy her now if needed. The weapon won't age entire ships like Prometheus's main gun, but it can create localized temporal fields. Imagine hitting a ship's reactor with a time bubble. Suddenly it's experienced years of wear in seconds. Boom." Chen felt a spark of hope. "How quickly can you get the Defiant to our position?" Kim checked her displays. "She's already en route. Captain Torres anticipated you might need backup. ETA is 3 hours, 40 minutes. She'll arrive just before the Valorian reinforcements." Chen allowed herself a tight smile. 1 ship becomes 2. Not great odds, but better than we had. "Kim, tell Torres to approach under full stealth. I want the Valorians to think she's another Titan class. Let them believe we really do have a fleet of these monsters." Admiral Morrison interjected. "You realize that even with the Defiant, you're still hopelessly outnumbered. Those Valorian ships aren't pushovers. They're battle-tested warships with experienced crews. I'm authorizing you to use the causality disruptor if necessary. Earth Command is willing to accept the risks if it means stopping an invasion." Chen took a deep breath. There was official authorization to potentially destroy her own solar system. She'd hoped to avoid this moment. "Understood, sir. But I want it on record that I'll only use that weapon as an absolute last resort. The potential for collateral damage is too high." "Noted and agreed," Morrison said. "Good luck, Admiral. Earth is counting on you." The transmission ended, leaving Chen alone with her thoughts for a moment. Then Reeves was at her elbow, his voice low. "You know we can't actually win this fight, right? Even with the Defiant, even with the causality disruptor. Best case scenario, we take down enough of their ships that they decide Earth isn't worth the cost. Worst case, we kill them all but lose control of the disruptor and accidentally destroy the solar system." Chen looked at him. "You always this optimistic, Doctor?" Reeves shrugged. "I'm a physicist. I deal in probabilities and outcomes. The probabilities here aren't good." Chen turned back to her displays, watching the Valorian fleet holding position 3,000 kilometers away. 29 ships, soon to be 44. All of them crewed by warriors from a civilization that had conquered dozens of worlds. And standing against them, 1 experimental Earth warship and whatever tricks her crew could pull out of their collective hats. "Then we change the probabilities," Chen said quietly. "We make them afraid. We make them doubt. We make them think that the cost of taking Earth is too high, even if they win. Fear's a weapon too, Doctor. Maybe the best weapon we have. 3 hours and 37 minutes later, the UES Defiant dropped out of FTL on the far side of Earth's moon, her stealth systems engaged, her temporal disruptor weapon charged and ready. Captain Maria Torres sat in her command chair, studying the tactical situation, with the practiced eye of someone who'd spent 20 years in submarine warfare before. Transferring to the Space Force, the Valorians had no idea she was there. Good. Surprise was her only real advantage. Her ship was small, fast, and armed with a prototype weapon that might or might not work in actual combat. But Torres had spent her career commanding vessels that were outgunned and outnumbered. This was just another day at the office, except the office was space, and failure meant the extinction of humanity. Prometheus. This is Defiant, Torres transmitted on a tightly focused quantum, encrypted channel. We're in position, ready to execute on your signal. Chen's response came back immediately. Copy, Defiant. Hold position and maintain stealth. The Valorian reinforcements will be here in 20 minutes. When they arrive, we're going to give them a show they'll never forget. Torres grinned. She'd served with Chen years ago during the Mars colony's crisis. The woman had nerves of steel and a gift for tactical improvisation. If anyone could pull off a miracle today, it was her. Aboard the Prometheus, Chen was reviewing her plan for what felt like the 100th time. It was audacious. Some might say suicidal, but it was all they had. Tactical, confirm all weapons are charged and ready, she ordered. Engineering, how's our singularity core? The responses came back positive. The Prometheus was as ready as she'd ever be. Now it was just a question of execution, and luck, hopefully more of the former than the latter. Admiral, Valorian reinforcements dropping out of FTL, the sensor officer announced. 15 contacts confirmed. Lead ship is massive, twice the displacement of their standard warships. That must be the Eternal Dominion. Chen watched as the new Valorian ships took up positions, forming a crescent around the Prometheus's position. 40 for ships now, all told. The Eternal Dominion positioned itself at the center of the formation, and Chen knew without checking that War Master Krell would be aboard, personally overseeing what he probably thought would be the defeat and capture of Earth's miracle ship. Open a channel, Chen ordered. Let's see what the War Master has to say. Krell's face appeared on the main screen, and Chen immediately understood why this particular Valorian had risen to command entire fleets. His eyes held a predatory intelligence that went beyond simple aggression. This was a warrior who understood strategy, who calculated risks and rewards with cold precision. When he spoke, his voice carried the absolute confidence of someone who'd won dozens of battles. Admiral Chen, I am War Master Krell, Supreme Commander of the Valorian 4th Fleet. I've reviewed the footage of your attack on the Eternal Conquest. Impressive. Your ship wields power I did not expect from humans, but I'm afraid your little demonstration has failed in its objective. Chen kept her expression neutral. Has it? Krell bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. You wanted to frighten us into retreat. Instead, you've merely made us cautious. I've brought 15 additional warships, including my personal flagship. My fleet now outnumbers your lone vessel 40-1. You fought well, but your bluff is called. Surrender your ship, provide us with its technical specifications, and I'll allow your crew to evacuate to Earth before we begin the occupation. Resist, and we'll destroy you and take the technology from your wreckage. Either way, Earth belongs to the Valorian Empire. Chen leaned forward in her chair, and when she spoke, her voice was ice. War Master, you've made 3 critical mistakes. First, you assumed the Prometheus was alone. She made a subtle gesture, and her communications officer sent a signal to the Defiant. Torres's ship dropped its stealth, appearing on sensors 5,000 kilometers behind the Valorian formation. The effect was immediate. The Valorian fleet scrambled, ships breaking formation as they tried to track the new threat. Second, Chen continued, you assumed we were bluffing about having more ships. The UES Defiant is smaller than Prometheus, but she's equipped with similar technology, and she's currently positioned behind your fleet, with clean firing solutions on your engines. Krell's expression darkened, but Chen wasn't finished. And third, your biggest mistake, you assumed we came here to fight." She paused, letting that sink in. "We didn't come here to destroy your fleet, War Master. We came here to give you a history lesson. Do you know what happens when humans are backed into a corner? When we face extinction? We don't surrender. We don't beg. We find a way to take our enemies with us. The causality disruptor aboard Prometheus isn't just a weapon. It's insurance. If we can't save Earth, we'll make sure the Valorian Empire pays a price so high that no other civilization will ever threaten humanity again." Chen pulled up a holographic display, showing simulations of the causality disruptor at full power. Ships aging into debris, hulls crumbling from metal fatigue, reactor cores depleting in seconds. Every ship in your fleet is within effective range of our primary weapon. If we fire, you'll all experience centuries of entropy in the space of heartbeats. Your shields won't help. Your armor won't save you. You'll just stop, and then we'll turn this weapon on your empire's home system and every colony world we can reach, before our core goes critical and takes us with you. The simulation showed a spreading wave of temporal distortion, consuming fleets and planets alike. It was horrifying. It was also entirely possible, if they were willing to lose containment control. Krell stared at the display, and for the first time, Chen saw uncertainty in his eyes. "You're threatening mutual destruction." Chen nodded. "Mutually assured destruction. It's a concept humans have a lot of experience with. We nearly wiped ourselves out with nuclear weapons 3 different times during our history. We know how to play this game, War Master. The question is, do you? Is Earth really worth losing your entire fleet? Worth having us deliver the same weapon to your home world? Because that's what you're looking at. You can try to stop us, but we'll get at least 1 shot off before you destroy us. Maybe more. How many ships are you willing to lose? How many worlds?" The Valorian formation was in chaos now, ships calling for instructions, targeting systems trying to track both Earth vessels simultaneously. Krell held up a hand, and gradually his fleet steadied. But Chen could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. This wasn't the easy conquest he'd been promised. This was a Pyrrhic victory at best, an extinction-level catastrophe at worst. "You're insane," Krell said finally. "You'd destroy yourselves just to hurt us?" Chen smiled coldly. "If necessary, absolutely. But I'd much rather we both walk away from this. You return to your empire with a lesson learned: humanity is not prey. We're apex predators who happen to live on a pale blue dot. Push us hard enough, and we'll show you exactly what that means." War Master Krell sat in his command chair, mind racing through scenarios and outcomes. He'd fought 100 battles, conquered a dozen worlds, and earned his position through strategic brilliance and ruthless efficiency. Every instinct told him that Chen was bluffing, that the causality disruptor was too dangerous to use, that she wouldn't risk destroying her own solar system. But looking at the human admiral's face, seeing the absolute conviction in her eyes, Krell wasn't certain, and uncertainty was death in warfare. The humans had already demonstrated weapons that shouldn't exist. Their ships moved in ways that violated physics. They'd destroyed the eternal conquest in seconds. What if they really were crazy enough to pull the trigger? "War Master, we have firing solutions on both human vessels," his tactical officer reported. "Your orders?" Krell's claws drummed against his armrest. He could order the attack. His fleet would probably win, probably being the operative word. But losses would be catastrophic. And if the humans really did have that weapon, if Chen really was willing to use it, the Valorian Empire would lose 40 for ships and its most experienced fleet commander, not to mention the possibility of human ships emerging from whatever hiding places they'd prepared, carrying temporal weapons to Valorian worlds in retaliation. It would be a disaster that would echo through the Empire for generations. But if he retreated, he'd be branded a coward. He'd lose his command, possibly his life. Krell's political enemies would use this failure to destroy him. Unless he reframed the situation. Unless he made this retreat look like a strategic decision rather than a defeat. "Admiral Chen," Krell said slowly, his mind working through possibilities. "You've made your point effectively. The Valorian Empire does not make war on equals lightly. Your demonstration has shown that humanity possesses technology that warrants reconsideration of your status." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. I'm prepared to recommend to the Imperial Council that Earth be classified as a protected development candidate, pending full review by the Galactic Council. Chen's expression didn't change, but Krell saw the slight tension leave her shoulders. She knew what he was offering a face, saving exit for both sides. What does that mean, specifically? She asked. Krell allowed himself to relax slightly. It means the Valorian Empire withdraws its claim on this system. It means we recommend to the Galactic Council that humanity receive provisional membership status, with all the protections that entails. It means that instead of conquering you, we're recognizing you as a civilization worth engaging with diplomatically. And in exchange? Chen asked. In exchange, you don't use that doomsday weapon and trigger an interstellar incident that would force the Council to intervene, Krell said bluntly. You also agree to share some basic information about your propulsion and defensive technologies, not weapons specifications, just enough to verify that you've achieved the technological benchmarks required for Council membership. And he hesitated. You let us leave with our dignity intact. I'm going to report that we encountered unexpected resistance from a more advanced human civilization than our intelligence suggested. That's technically true. I won't mention that you only have 2 ships. Chen glanced at someone off screen, probably conferring with her command staff. Then she nodded. Acceptable. But War Master, this needs to be very clear. If any Valorian vessel approaches Earth's solar system in the future, without explicit invitation, we'll consider it an act of war. We may only have 2 ships right now, but we're building more. In 5 years, we'll have a dozen. In 10, a fleet. The next time our civilizations meet, the odds won't be as favorable for you. Krell actually found himself respecting the human's audacity. Understood, Admiral. I wouldn't have it any other way. Honorable enemies make better allies than conquered slaves. The next hour was spent on technical details, transmission of coordinates for Galactic Council contact points, preliminary data exchanges, and the careful choreography of 2 fleets disengaging without either side losing face. Krell ordered his ships to withdraw beyond Jupiter's orbit, far enough to be clearly non-threatening but close enough to maintain sensor contact. He watched as the human ships Prometheus and Defiant took up defensive positions around Earth. Dark Sentinels standing guard over their homeworld. Helm, set course for Valorian space, Krell ordered. Best speed. We're going home. As his fleet jumped to FTL, leaving the Sol system behind. Krell composed his report to the Imperial Council. He framed the encounter carefully, not as a defeat, but as first contact with an emerging power that possessed unexpected capabilities. He emphasized the strategic wisdom of making an ally rather than a desperate enemy. He recommended immediate diplomatic outreach through proper council channels. And buried in the technical data, he included a warning. Humanity had weaponized temporal manipulation. They'd achieved singularity power generation. They'd built ships that could challenge Valorian military supremacy. In short, they were dangerous. The kind of dangerous that empires learned to respect. 3 months later, Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the new orbital defense station Unity, watching as the UES Titan, the 2nd ship of the Prometheus class, underwent final system checks. Before its maiden voyage, the station was a hub of activity now, with ships from a dozen human nations contributing to Earth's defense fleet. The Valorian encounter had done something remarkable. It had united humanity in a way nothing else had managed. When faced with extinction, political differences suddenly seemed trivial. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Galactic Council headquarters, Lieutenant Park announced. Chen smiled. That was probably the formal invitation. She'd been expecting humanity's official induction into the Council as provisional members. It had taken months of negotiations, technical demonstrations, and diplomatic maneuvering. But Earth had finally earned its seat at the galactic table, not as clients or subjects, but as equals. Put it through to my office, Chen said. And Park, get me Captain Torres. I think the Defiance crew should hear this too, in her office. Chen watched as the Council's ambassador, a crystalline entity that communicated through modulated light patterns, extended formal greetings, and outlined humanity's new status. Provisional membership meant protection under Council law. It meant access to trade networks and technology exchanges. It meant humanity was no longer alone in the cosmos, vulnerable to any aggressive empire that found them first. The ambassador concluded with words that made Chen's chest swell with pride. The Council recognizes that humanity has demonstrated both the capability and the wisdom required for membership. Your civilization faced annihilation and chose a path that preserved both your own survival and your adversaries' lives. Such balance is rare. Welcome to the galactic community. Captain Torres's face appeared on a secondary screen as the transmission ended. We did it, Torres said, grinning. We actually pulled it off. Earth is officially part of the big leagues. Chen nodded. Thanks to 300 brave souls on Prometheus and your crew on Defiant. We bought humanity the time we needed with nothing but audacity and one hell of a bluff. Torres laughed. Well, mostly a bluff. We really do have that causality disruptor. Would you have used it? Chen was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I don't know. I like to think I would have found another way. But if it came down to watching Earth burn or pulling that trigger, yeah, I think I would have. That's what scared Krell, I think. He looked in my eyes and saw someone who really would push the button. Torres sobered. That's what makes humans dangerous, Admiral. We're just crazy enough to do the impossible when we have to. The galaxy is going to learn that soon enough. Chen looked out at the stars, at the vast expanse of space that humanity was only beginning to explore. Somewhere out there, the Valorian Empire was reassessing its strategies, spreading word that Earth was not the easy prey they'd expected. Other civilizations were taking notice, evaluating whether humanity was a potential threat or potential ally. And in shipyards across the solar system, more Titan-class ships were under construction, each one a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Let them learn, Chen said quietly. Let every civilization out there know that Earth doesn't conquer. We don't oppress, but we also don't bow. We stand our ground, we protect our own, and we'll fight like hell for what we believe in. 6 months after the Valorian incident, as historians were already calling it, Director James Reeves gave a lecture at the newly established Earth Council Science Exchange. His audience included scientists from 17 different species, all gathered to hear about the legendary causality disruptor that had stopped an invasion fleet. Reeves stood at the podium, exhausted as always but animated by enthusiasm as he explained the theoretical principles behind temporal manipulation. The key insight, he told his audience, was that we humans don't think like most species. We're not content with understanding how the universe works. We want to know how we can break it, bend it, make it do things it's not supposed to do. He pulled up a holographic display of the Prometheus's main weapon. This device shouldn't exist. It violates several fundamental principles that most civilizations consider inviolate. But we built it anyway because we were desperate, because we needed an edge, because we refused to accept that some things were impossible. Reeves paused, looking out at the alien scientists. A lot of you are probably thinking we're reckless, that we're dangerous. You're right, we are. But we're also innovative, adaptable, and we learn from our mistakes. That causality disruptor scared us as much as it scared the Valorians. So we've spent the last 6 months making it safer, more stable, more controllable. Not because we want to use it, but because if we need it again, we want to be certain it won't destroy everything we're trying to protect. The lecture continued for another hour, and by the end, Reeves had several offers for collaborative research projects. The galaxy's greatest minds wanted to work with humanity to understand how this upstart species had achieved breakthroughs that should have taken millennia. Reeves accepted many of the offers. After all, humanity had a lot to learn from older civilizations. But he also made it clear that Earth's scientists would continue pushing boundaries, exploring the impossible, taking risks that more cautious species avoided. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, the willingness to try what others thought was madness. 2 years after the Valorian incident, Admiral Chen retired from active duty. She'd overseen the construction of 12 Titan-class warships, helped establish Earth's first deep space fleet academy, and negotiated defense agreements with 3 council-member species. She'd earned her rest. On her last day in uniform, she visited the Prometheus, now docked at the expanded Facility 7 and undergoing upgrades. The ship that had saved humanity was being refitted with new weapons, improved armor, and a causality disruptor that Reeves swore was now safe enough to use, without risking planetary extinction. Chen walked through the empty corridors, remembering that desperate day when 300 humans had faced down an invasion fleet. With nothing but courage and one untested prototype, she stopped at the bridge, sitting in her old command chair, and allowed herself a moment of reflection. They'd been so close to losing everything. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and Earth would have burned. But they'd won. Not through superior firepower, they'd been hopelessly outgunned. They'd won through psychology, through understanding their enemy, through being willing to risk everything for their home world. Former Admiral. Chen turned to see Captain David Kumar, the Prometheus's new commanding officer. He was young, brilliant, and had commanded the UES Titan during its shakedown cruise. Just wanted to thank you for what you did. For all of us. This ship, this fleet, none of it would exist without you. Chen stood, smiling. I just bought us time, Captain. The future of humanity's place in the galaxy, that's going to be decided by people like you. Make it count. She left the ship and took a shuttle back to Earth, watching the blue marble grow larger in the viewport. Somewhere up there, Earth's fleet patrolled the borders of the solar system, vigilant guardians against any threat. Somewhere in diplomatic halls on distant worlds, human ambassadors negotiated treaties and built alliances. And somewhere in laboratories and shipyards, human scientists and engineers were already working on the next impossible breakthrough. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Humanity might have been late to the cosmic stage, but they were here to stay. They'd proven they could stand against empires. They'd shown they could innovate under pressure. And most importantly, they demonstrated that when push came to shove, humans would fight for their home with everything they had. As Chen's shuttle descended toward the spaceport in New York, she thought about War Master Krell and wondered what he was doing now. Probably still commanding fleets, still conquering worlds, but carefully avoiding Earth's growing sphere of influence. The Valorian Empire and humanity weren't friends, but they'd developed a wary respect. The kind of respect that only comes from meeting an enemy who refuses to lose. And in the grand calculus of galactic politics, that respect was worth more than any number of conquered planets. The shuttle landed, and Chen stepped out into the warm summer air, breathing deeply. 2 years ago, she'd been ready to die protecting this world. Today, she could walk in the sunshine knowing Earth was safe, knowing humanity had earned its place among the stars. It had been a close thing. The Valorians had thought Earth was weak. They'd learned otherwise. And across the galaxy, other civilizations were learning the same lesson. Never underestimate humanity. We might be newcomers. We might be reckless. But we're survivors. And when threatened, we don't just fight back, we build weapons that bend reality itself to our will. Chen smiled, looking up at the sky where, invisible to the naked eye, the Prometheus and her sister ships stood watch. Humanity had unleashed its deadliest warship when the galaxy thought us weak. Now, the galaxy knew better. Now, they knew Earth's name. And that, Chen thought, was victory enough. The Valorian Empire now maintains a respectful distance from Earth space. Humanity continues to expand its presence in the galaxy, building ships, forging alliances, and proving that despite being newcomers to the cosmic stage, they're a force to be reckoned with. The UES Prometheus remains in active service, a dark reminder to any who would threaten Earth. Humanity protects its own, no matter the cost. This is the story of how one ship changed the course of galactic history, and how humanity earned its place among the stars through courage, innovation, and the absolute refusal to surrender.